Dragon's Reckoning grants the user Death Touch on a single Drake. It has a single use. It can be used on epic Drakes, including Elder. It does not work on champs like Shyvana or Smolder, right? It doesn't work on all the dragons, just epic Drakes. It replaces the World Atlas Holder's trinket, similar to the mechanic of Rift Herald. It does not expire. So how are lane swaps to be detected? So, this will be going on. But what I'm getting at, just to finalize the idea, is there is a trade-off, right? So if they're lane swapping, you're denying the trinket of the support player. But he, in return, gets Dragon's Reckoning, which can smite the first Drake. Now, if they're sieging top and they don't want to, they're doing whatever, their thing, you get one charge. And then you get to choose if you want to use it on the first Drake, because maybe you don't need to. It's already been secured. So I was looking at a game here. This was a case study. I just took a few print screens because, again, video editing is such a demanding and challenging task. Well done, guys and girls and whomever. But this case study that I got this was a lane swap that was done at Worlds 2024, where TES came out with 5.1 to 4.8 gold lead. They picked the Kaisa comp, so they wanted to do the dive. They could lane swap, but they didn't. They actually opted to play the game normally. T1 swapped. And what I'm saying is, if you go a little bit later on to 2810, they are losing. But this third Drake could have been easily contested by Leona here. Like, if you look at the match state, this could easily have been 3 Drakes to none. So if I'm talking about 51-7 to 44-7, but they have 3 Drakes, is that enough? Well, if you look at, what is this? League of Graphs. If you look at League of Graphs and you look at the win rate based on Drakes, well, right now this is skewed because it's early, so there's not enough games. So funnily enough, the Iron stats might make more sense as to what they typically are. But look at 3 Drakes for pros right now, or not pros, but just Masters Plus, 100% win rate. What happens if you get Soul? You get a bit less. That's just because if you tie 3-3, then somebody's gonna get Soul, and then there's you got 3 Drakes, but you still lost the game. But if you had 3 Drakes, you would have guaranteed to win the game. So, but when you look at the typical League of Graphs, you get a sense that Drakes are typically a higher elo skewed as a balance. They tend to favor teams that are better qualified, that contest Drakes and whatnot. So here, the third Drake, I mean, in solo queue, it's a 30% win rate. Again, I don't have access to the actual numbers that Riot have access to. So I'd lean on the team to try to get some information there. But so far, I think it makes sense that it fits the theme. I think a Super Smite I think that most pro players would agree that losing your trinket on support to be able to mostly deny vision, because then you get your vision item, right? Versus a Super Smite, I think the Super Smite might be valued more. So, okay, that's how that's working. So how are lane swaps to be detected? Now here we have to go about, like, I talked about that a little bit in part 1, about how the definition of a lane swap is somewhat skewed, because it happens all the time. The way I see my job as depending on who I listen to as an ADC, is to go almost mid lane and go to mid lane as 2 at like 10 minutes, while others will say it's after laning phase, depending on your elo, and while others say it's after 20 minutes, right? But what I'm getting at is laners constantly change lanes, and so they're constantly swapping from here to there, There's some standard formations that are agreed upon at certain times, and they're all okay. But I don't want to. My whole point of this is to not remove player creativity. How can we do it in a way that you don't stifle player creativity? And I did an analysis of what are the options, because right now Riot has been using World Atlas, where I've suggested using World Atlas as the means of checking and noticing it. And I agree that for griefing, that's a very powerful metric to have access to. But in regards to lane swap, from the research I did in part 1, is there are lane swap games where your support will be topside with your ADC, and there are support games where your support will be bot side alone. He's the one trying to tank the dive. You could have him mid, you can have him. So I don't think that the Atlas really matters, because there's formations where you can still get it regardless of where support is. He could be solo laning, and he could be duo laning, and it doesn't really change the fact that this is still going to happen. So for me, when I was going at lane swaps, I think that the correct problem is not having a 2v2 bot. Now, I did the iterations, and if you can just do a very quick case study. This will be somewhat new for people, so this is Annex 1. This is just a method I came up just doing decision trees in my own job. So I ask you a question. Can my top laner Okay, let's set the scene first. So I want to do a standard game. It comes the time where at 1:45 I look at the mini map and notice two. So enemy top and ADC are top side. Enemy mid and support are bot side. So we don't know where the jungler is. So there's 2 top, there's 2 bot. We don't know where the jungler is. Okay, so me as a mid laner, what should I do? Well, can my top laner handle a 3-man tower dive and catch XP? If the answer is yes, you go left. If the answer is no, you go right. So it says, well, okay, let's say yes. Can my bot side handle a 3v2 gank? Because my top laner can my bot side do it too? The answer is no. Well, I should roam bot and defend the jungle gank. That's my correct play. But if my bot side handle 3v2, yes, well then I should stay mid and just get ahead laning 1v0, because they're not going to be able to win the 3v2 and it's a 2v2 top. And there's an odd mad rush bot side, but I have a free lane here to just scale for free. So you can do these decisions. And again, so if I do, can my top laner handle? No, he can't handle it. Do we know where the enemy jungler is? No, we don't know where the enemy jungler is. That would have been yes. You just match the jungle roam. But is bot side overextended? Then play for bot side. If you could see a guaranteed play bot side, the value proposition would state that you go bot side. Otherwise, you have to guess because you don't know where the jungler is. You don't know you don't think bot side is overextended, so there's no play there. We'll just protect the dive top and guess. That would be the correct play as a mid laner to be able to adapt to the situation. And this can happen at any time, right? I'm talking about 145 here. These plays happen constantly. Pro players will have the books of these plays that can happen with the correct decision making on how to go yes, no, yada, yada, yada. So this is to get back to what I was talking about. How are lane swaps to be detected? So after going through a bunch of these playbooks, I think it is correct to say that the problem is you don't have 2 people bot side at 2 minutes. This I did some testing and we'll go on to further out, but I think that's the issue. And it doesn't matter who's bot side. If you want to put jungler mid, is that somebody you're losing something for it. And if you only put one person bot side, then you're getting Dragon's Reckoning. And that's the trade-off you get. You're giving a Drake. Instead of the 400 gold advantage that Whippo mentions, you get a first Drake. But it's not first Drake, right? It's imagine a world where support Pike has Dragon's Reckoning because you gave it to him. And you're trying to get Drake, and he'll literally just make you waste your time as a jungler because he's got nothing better else to do. He'll just poke and prod, let you get it down to about 2k. Your smite is worth 900 at that point, let's say. Well, then he'll let it get down to 1500, and then he'll super smite it and take it away. So he can still force you to just waste your time as a jungler. So there's some compelling gameplay to be had here. And then if we think we can secure it, then we secure it, and then we can keep it. And if we're securing the second Drake, Well, we can keep it, and then to get soul, we're just guaranteed soul if we ever get 3 drakes. Or maybe we're getting soul regardless because we're snowballing. But at this point, like, we're already winning. You might as well just get soul. Or you can just keep it for Elder because there's no point. But these decisions, these compelling gameplay, there's opportunities here. There's new things that can happen. So in my testing, what I came up with was just, it doesn't matter who's bot. At 2 minutes, is there 2 people bot side from both teams? And it's a minimum. It's not like a 5-2 is going to create a problem here. Now, I'll explain this again. This is case by case. There are holes here. The whole point of this video is just to keep addressing these as they come up, because that's what game design is. I think I have an idea. I know the problem. I think I have a compelling solution. How do we make it resolve and take into account all these, like, the intricacies? So I'm saying 2 minutes. So lane arrival time, this was the testing that I was talking about. Lane arrival time mindset implemented by bot laners running 1-1-2 formation at various ranks. Now here I agree, and I would have loved to be able to lean on challenger friends, family, co-workers, right? Because I don't really have this perspective, right? Masters to pro, I can watch videos and come up to what I think is happening. So I came up with some, but this is where the testing would come in, and then you try to see if you can make it happen. So Iron, I just want to fight in lane. I created a checkpoint system. Okay, and let's go talk about that, right? Because it'll make this make a lot more sense. So, because this is the solution. So let's go back to the checkpoints. This is Annex 2. All right, so this is a different take on, like, the circles that Riot implemented recently. I think I saw a PBE change that. Vanderil. Well done, sir. You are a wonderful content creator. And he showed a map where there were circles, and this was like the range at which he was seeming to detect lane swap or whatever. So there seems to be a way for Riot to do, like, areas. I'm not a programmer. I'm not. It's not my part of the job. I do have to suggest game design, keep it in mind a little bit. Like, if to say that my Dragon Soul optimization kind of strategy, like, it was clunky and it just shouldn't be implemented. You get that kind of perspective by having a slight understand. But even then, maybe there's a super simple way, and I'm just there. So I can't talk to the development side of it, but I think it exists from the pictures that I saw. So the reason I did the zones in this specific way to get your checkpoint is because there are plays that exist at different elos that would change your checkpoint. And what I'm saying is this: if you're in the bottom quadrant, that's a bot side. If you're on the top side quadrant, you're top side. If you're in the middle one, you're middle. Otherwise, you're in the jungle. So, for example, middle, you can do the half roam, look if there's a play top, and you can keep your checkpoint. Now, this would be a problem, like, not in the beginning. Maybe a little bit, but, like, much further on. So this checkpoint system could be used if it's ever figured out, like, in what quadrant is he? Like, is he playing mid lane? Is he not? But I'm not talking to that. I'm just saying there's some scalability there. But the reason I did it this way is so that, like, there are plays that people will do in low elo. So let's say by keeping this map up. First examples, well, I just want to fight in lane. So they just walk up to here, the white line, and now they're considered to be bot lane. So you just need to be here in your bot side. If you go here, you're jungler. So you can do that, like, 26 seconds, because there's, like, the 15 seconds for the game to start, and then it takes you 9 seconds to walk up to there. So, okay, they got their setup. So it's not a problem to set checkpoints really early on. The key point is 2 minutes is what I have it set at currently. Testing required. Like, it's obvious. Bronze. What did I put? Did my jungler ping me for help? If so, let's help him go to lane through the tri-brush and get bush cheesed. Okay, so this is where I'm trying to actually... This is one of the cases that actually makes compelling situations. What I'm calling for is that my team go help my jungler because we think he still needs a leash. And then we go about... Because he has help, and we're just nice bronze players. We don't know better, but he wants help. We can help a brother out, absolutely. So we help him out, and then we come here, And then we get bush cheese by, I don't know, Zara. What else is strong? Israel are right there, and we just get whacked. Now, we had options. We could have walked down towards turret and died there. We would have kept our checkpoint. We could have, instead of fighting that, walked around completely through here, which is like the ideal way. If you're gonna do a leash, this is the safest way out every time, and you hug the wall here so that if they're here, you've got time to get to your turret. It's a fun fact, but when I'm looking at the map, there might be potential. They want to build an alcove there, like there's a wall that they're creating. We're like, okay. And it would be to mitigate the possibility of them grouping in that and then being able to cheese laners on your way back to lane. But you get that done to you, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times, and then you know this. You're not meant to go by there. Yeah, you just follow. That's the safest play, and you lose like 1 second. Okay, so you had that option to just go around, or go around here. You would have been fine, or you could have flashed the wall and go back, and you would have still had the checkpoint. Or you could like just fight and die here, and you'd still have the checkpoint. So the only issue that I'm coming up with is if, as a bronzy, I help my leash, I walk up to Tribush, get cheesed, and I choose to run away towards my jungle, I would reset my checkpoint to jungle, and then I would give Dragon's Reckoning to the enemy team because we might have 2 checkpoints and bronze wouldn't know. So this is a case where like I'm affecting the regular player base at the Iron Elo. Now, what is this actually doing is teaching. I think it's a teachable moment for that player because it is never optimal to go through there. You can always get bush cheese if they're on vision. The only time you would do this is because it's the shortest path if you have them on vision. But if you don't have vision of that and you don't have vision on the players, you never go here. This is a no-no. That is just a part of the lesson. Like, how many times does it happen in Silver where your support goes to ward and the ward is oftentimes meaningless? All right. And then it says, okay, perfect. So now you just created a 2v1 because you want to put a ward, and so your ADC dies. So these kind of plays are teachable moments that obviously just happen in the game right now. So it's not horrible that this exists. But I'm not trying to be arrogant on this solution, right? So if Riot believes, or if the team gets to a point where they think that, you know what, no, that's also like uncompelling, we want 0 incidents of this happening, well, okay, you can turn it off. Or B, you just tight the line, right? Make it so that if mid laners go through river, they count as a mid laner. But if they go through lane, right now I have it, then they become a jungle checkpoint. Rather than that, well, then just keep this open too. So this line gets longer. You're considered mid laner all the way to here. So, and then you create the line, let's say here, and then this now all becomes bot side. But like, I feel like this one's fairly intuitive, and for this example, like, it's not breaking it. So what's the next example? Silver, let's leash because that's important. Let's leave at 137 so I don't lose a creep. So they just get to lane 144. It's not a problem. Gold, 5-man lane invade because it's fun to ace the team at 137. You can get back at a 159 to reset bot. So, and you can also just, instead of, like, this would be the worst case where all 5 of you just go and die not in the correct checkpoint. And if you're in gold and you know this about this mechanic, this shouldn't be an issue. Like, you just peel 2 people bot side and then you're fine. Like, I don't think it's a problem. And even then, when you can trigger it at that time, your bot lane has time to hit the checkpoint, right? Because that's why it's so close to the nexus to get your checkpoint, so that the enemy team cannot deny changing your checkpoint. You can go here freely, here freely, here freely, and in the early game at least, and I think further on too, it might be relevant. There might be situations where we need to like shift this white line even closer to the nexus, because this is another problem for that we don't know we need to account for yet, because it hasn't surfaced. But the thing is that this kind of system is scalable. Like you can change and you can amend and you can make it work until we've defined every single case that we want to deal with and whatnot. And you can keep like cycling metas. Like they obviously have to keep the game fresh, and you could do that just by changing, I was saying, the toxicity level of different things, and it would just do it. So next situation, platinum. I'm going straight to lane. Bush cheese my opponent in lane. So that's like one of those bushes because it's fun to do that. An emerald play. Icy. I'm gonna play a Caitlyn Lux, and my support is a Soraka. This is painful as a MF main. I am not happy to be here. Okay, I'm just going to help my jungler clear red. And then he's got Krugs. I'm going to leave to lane at Krugs, but my support can keep helping with Krugs because I can try to get as much XP that I can in the range, but like I am getting... there's no chance of me going in to be able to get a trade here. If I had a Leona, then I'd be different and we could contest level 1 and I'd go with like different runes. You could start Hail of Blades. Like there's more opportunities, but... if we're opting into like I scale, you guys scale, well, we're losing this turret. We're losing first turret this game. They're going to get ahead. So you take the lesser of two evils. But that's an easy walk into lane at 144. And then this is where I say I'm not qualified. So if any of these examples don't make any sense, kindly just correct me. 2-man jungle invade. Pike Lee Sin, kill jungler, rotate the bot side. So this is when your support and your jungler decide to invade blue buff and kill their jungler on bot side. Well, technically, depending on when it dies, I hit 204 is tight. This is if the support's actually going on the top side of the map and he tries to recall and get back. Depends, like the timing. It is tight. Now, am I okay that diamond players have access to a tight tight window? Like that they're going to start running Hecarim with E and Ghost or Unsealed Spellbook on the support to be able to TP to lane as the first summoner spell, but then he doesn't have like Exhaust to kill the jungler early, right? So there are compelling choices here to be had, and there's an opportunity there. And it might change. I think it's breathing life into the game. It's not necessarily rotation, but it's a pass or fail. And again, I'm not disappointed about the outcomes. I want to see people cook and come up with that, because is killing the enemy jungler worth giving first Drake? So as the jungler getting cheesed, I guess, 2v1, but I'm gifted Dragon's Reckoning to my support. Am I mad? I don't have red buff. I'm behind, but we have first Drake. And again, if that is too strong, you just go back to the levers and just amend the reward so that it's even more powerful. So that's, for me, was interesting. Bard top leaves lane to 4v2 bot side. This was in Masters at 130 and gets killed 150. Wolf then goes bot. So a roaming Bard would have like a 4v2 bot side. But again, here I'm saying that it's fairly easy to keep 2 checkpoints. And the fact that you have 4 checkpoints doesn't make it so that, hey, you guys win the reward. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that at all times, by 2 minutes, you need to have set at least 2 of your team members as a checkpoint bot side. And then this should just mitigate the issue. We'll get to the final example that's in red. I put it in red, which is pro play. So that in Grandmasters, I'm saying invade topside with jungle as support and top laner, kill jungler, recall, go bot. That's where I was saying there was the unsealed spellbook advantage, maybe. I want to gank challenger. I want to gank mid as Nautilus level 1 to burn mid's flash, then go defend my blue buff, then go bot. And here I was, depending on which path he took, the safe route was 155 and the other one was 150. So you still have like that early roam play of trying to bait mid laner's flash and you don't get punished for it. It doesn't count as if like lane swap. You're not denying XP to your laner. I'm not disappointed that this play exists in the game. Right? That's not the degenerate gameplay that we're trying to remove. And now in pro play. So in pro play, there was a single variation of lane swap where you would send 4 to kill and you would stay there until you got the turret. And for that example, I feel like 1 Drake isn't enough. And the issue is that they can just keep going and they're forcing you to match. And once you've matched, then they'll let it go. And I don't think that that's compelling. So if they do what I'm going to coin a double lane swap. So what is it? A double lane swap gambit? Lane swap double gambit? So they double down on the gambit is what I'm trying to get at. It's okay, well, let's double down on the reward. Now, it's a riskier play that we want to see even less of in the game. Like, I want to see that if it's already an incidence of 1 out of 10 games is it's okay to have a lane swap. Well, I want to see that variation of it 1 out of 10 games, 10 lane swap games. So we're not talking about 1 of 100. So I can actually increase the power budget I have for my reward to stifle that. So Dragon's Reward and the Dragon's Reckoning gives you a second charge. So if they stay bot for every minute and a half that they stay there, and again, the timing can be skewed. This is all testing that decides that. But give them a second charge. Drake in pro play does mean enormous, and for feats it would make an impact. It is very compelling, I think, to be able to do that. And I think at the Elite Pro, you know how I was calling back to this like optimization that we have to code? Let the pro players decide it. Add it so that if they do the double gambit, double LaneSwap gambit, you as a team can now click this reward bot side, select the Drake you want to spawn. So you can choose which map you want to get for your comp, remove that randomness from the game. You get to choose the comp, and you get to get the first 2 Drakes. That's what you're trading off. So yes, you lost feats, you lost your first turret, but guess what? There's also this like 3 objective thing that exists, and you just got 2 of them, guaranteed. If you play, and the pro players will maximize this. This isn't an issue. So for pros, again, I'm saying that this is a possibility, but you can easily, thematically, and I think this is compelling, creatively solve for that too. So then I want to create more situations where I could like reward atypical scenarios and whatever. So in Iron, I die in lane at 140 and walk mid because I'm mad. So I reset my checkpoint to mid at 202, so it would not trigger. But technically, this is a griefing behavior. He has no business being there. He should be going bot side. There are ways around this, but right now it still would pass, but it might be a little bit too tight. Like if you were to die at 137, he would have had time to go mid. But he doesn't belong mid. You're supposed to go bot. So without having the stats to know how many times these type of scenarios actually happen in games, and knowing everybody's position and having access to that metric would be able to like better inform this kind of and it'd be a query of sorts. Would be able to kind of inform the position on this and what's the correct timing. Troll. I opt out into lane swap in a solo queue game to troll my team. So what I got here was, as a support, I go mid. And then I just go bot after 2 minutes have expired. So I can guarantee that, like, I know you're not getting it. But no, right? This is what I'm saying. It's the onus is not on a single player. The book decides. Well, if the book decides to do that, there's a way that the jungler can just like lose 4 seconds of his jungle clear to just make sure that he has the checkpoint at 2 minutes and then go on his way. So the trolling behavior, you can't really grief it because all you need is 2 people to say, no, we stop griefing. And then you report the behavior and then this should be caught. So I'm okay with the troll with my system. Like it's a lot harder to grief it because you can't choose as the support to grief it. Aha, I'm the World Atlas holder. I'm triggering a lane swap. No. Because your team can say no. It's like the whole time where there was a Nivea and Tom Kench, right? you could there was a story where you could troll people with that. Anytime you put a mechanic where you could deny your own team, you could troll, and they had to change this because you could wall off, eat the person as Tom Kench, wall off the enemy nexus, and throw him across the wall, and then you could kill your players that way. There's just different things you could do. Okay, so we've been going over checkpoints. So yeah, so with these testing in mind, what I came up with too is if the team at 2 minutes reaches the 2 checkpoints, bot side, no reward is given out. So standard game, no rewards are given out. That's the current implementation, and it could be that both have a super spite, but I think that's less compelling. So I'm okay with just being right now for this example and this problem solution. It's better to just keep it as is. So no reward is giving out if it's a standard game. If by 2 minutes somebody has like one person bought, only one person bought checkpoint, then the reward is given out. If both teams only have one checkpoint, no reward is given out. I think that one is more compelling. Testing could be done at this phase to alternately award both teams with Dragon's Reckoning. It depends how compelling it is. So I'm not sold on it. Again, this is testing. But then you keep adding that timers to that pro example where it's like if at 3:30 the checkpoint's not been reached, you give a second charge, you can give a third charge, you can give a fourth charge, you can actually spawn the drakes prematurely so that your supporter can just go there and smite them, and then you can grant soul, spawns elder. Well, at that point, just ban the pro team for breaking a rule. Like, it's not meant to ever go there. You make it considerably that just the double gambit is already like you've lost the game by doing it. We're allowing you to do a single gambit, LaneSwap Gambit, but the double, that should never really exist. Or sure, we'll see one game at pros and just see you get demolished and you deserve it. That was griefing by the pro team. Like, I'm okay with that. But I also promoted like those other ideas, like you could vote for the soul and the Drake spawn. I feel like pro players would maximize this because I looked at the win rates and I had feedback that they would always just choose the same one, but I honestly think that pro players would be able to do this evaluation, figure out like, what do we want? We want Ocean Soul. Like if I've got a Mundo and playing into like, I don't know, different Drakes, they depend on different comps, and that's a beautiful skill expression that pro plays can maximize for, where it shouldn't. In fact, like we should never even be able to get to see this gambit in solo queue, hopefully, because the way I'm designing the system, it's meant to never trigger. It's meant to just be there. It's a little bit like the chess au passant rule, where you can actually eat a pawn that passed you by even though he goes up 2, you can eat him. And it's a like convoluted rule that's hidden it's just, well, right now the solution is to just make your pawn disappear. Like that's what Riot's doing. You're allowed to do this rule of lane swapping for the rest of the game. 90% of the time it's all okay, but if you do it within the first couple of moves, then yours disappears. That's the current implementation of Riot's solution, and the whole point of why I'm against this. It's like, why are you changing the rules? At least in chess, that en passant rule, it's convoluted. It was there for balance or by a choice, and that rule is always true, whether you do it at the beginning of the game or at the end of the game. So I'm okay with some convoluted, but not this. Just what this is the interaction at this time. Like that's anyway. So my reward system just goes against that. It's not a problem. So I think it's a better solution. How will this impact solo queue? Well, that also depends. You can turn off the system for solo queue. Rewards are never granted, or same as before. But that goes back to like having 2 game clients and 2 versions. Maybe, I don't know what the programming side of it. But this, to me, my first instinct is like, why? But turn on the system, which is what I prefer. Rewards are granted. I would have to be like a duo that wants to opt to lane swap and they go top. So if I were to duo with a friend and go top side with him, we're forcing our top laner to go bot side, and then the jungler can match on our team, can just start bot side, clear, and then go towards blue side, and then we were 3v1 at like 330, 340-ish. So it's a little bit of a troll because you're forcing your jungler to play optimally through you. Now, is this terrible? No, it's a variant. But the thing is you're not giving Dragon's Reckoning because your jungler has to behave that way. So you're actually giving information to the enemy team. Okay, the jungler started bot side. Because the only way we have vision on 3, we actually know where the jungler is based on this. So, like, you're getting ganked top if you see this at 3:30. You can't push, you can't play safe. It's not an incoming lane swap, but your jungler can actually react accordingly. Your mid laner can. And this might just be a variant. And again, so if we see more problematic, I'm just pushing for like, let's reward all these situations. Let's see it play out and see if it's a problem. Because you know how I said in the first case where there was a 4-1 example at 3:30, there was another trigger of this, right? Well, if this is another trigger, count it. It's happening at 3:30. That's the other window. Well, then now there's 2 windows, and you can get 2 charges. It's just a matter of testing and seeing how relevant this is in game. But ideally, I'd like this to be triggered as least as possible. I'm not against a duo team going topside for it, and it not awarding the soul, the dragon's reckoning. I don't want to stifle player creativity. If they think that's how they can win because they don't want to do the 2v1, we have to sacrifice something, and jungle position is one of them. And you know what? If you see that, your jungler should actually just clear their blue side jungle and then defend top, just half the map vertically, and just take the top side quadrant of both sides. Then he's losing all his camps here, and you can triple gank. So there is opportunities here. There is counterplay. Like there is a decision to be had, and you can opt into it. But that's the whole point of League of Legends. It's a not having enough information. But again, it's just you're rewarding the correct behavior, and you're offering them possibilities to easily know what to do. So how else would it affect solo queue? So other than that, a statue would now be present in bot side alcove. Torches could maybe be placed where limits and checkpoints to guide players. You could have these little bearings. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's not too much of an ask to the art department to do something cool with it. Because yeah, go. Dream. Other UI could be implemented if checkpoints ever are useful for other new mechanics and logics. Okay. Speaks to the scalability. I'm not afraid of that. Everything else should be normal. Those mechanics should only trigger in pro play. If an Iron player is ever given it, they will get a Drake Super Smite. Shouldn't be game breaking. Should make him feel powerful. Overall, I think that's like not the end of the world. I think it's healthy for the game for people to feel that fantasy of being godlike. I don't know. But my position so far has been that this seems to work. But obviously, I'm the one that tailored this document, so I'm skewed and biased. What's your biggest concern that you would like the team to look at? Well, will there be much less action in early game 90% of the games? So if we just do like the standard and we always do a handshake, like is it always that the team that knows you're going to lose the 2v2 just play their turret and there is no opportunity to 3-man dive them? Because ever since they buffed the turrets to do damage, is that tower diving is so much riskier. Like in Emerald, it is failing. It used to be that you could land it in Plat, and now you can't because the people just aren't that skillful anymore. And this is, I'm talking from personal experience, having played 300 games in Emerald last season. What scenarios is my Emerald brain missing that I could break my system? That's my biggest concern. Absolutely. What am I missing here? What's not obvious? What's not? I feel like this system just works is a lot cleaner than the current one, and it's a lot funner as a player base. But I'm skewed, right? And the beauty of like this is one version of the document that I've created, and I'll get back to the viability report next. But if every team member were to put this together, they're gonna value the same things at different levels. So some people might value functionality, other people might value cleanliness, stability, right? I'm a very functional outlook on things, and the other person who builds their document will be having these other levers in mind. It will come up with these different ideas, and you don't want to lock people into like this one way of looking at it. The beauty is that together, by putting all these mindsets, you can have a solution that's creative, that is functional, that is stable, that is because everybody's looking at it from somewhat of a different perspective. And that's where a team really shines, is that you can work on it and collab to get it to something that none of you could have figured out unless you work together. I think they do this at like Disney, where they'll take pictures, an artist's drawing or caricature, and he'll send it off to the next one. and says add something, and then you add something, and you add something. Then you might have a round of like remove something and remove, and you just keep getting the drawing design, and then in the end you see what you get, and you either really like it, or maybe you get the next minion, right? So that's the kind of teamwork that I'm seeing, and this is where this is coming from. So I don't want to change what's already at Riot here. They're obviously doing great and wonderful things. I'm just proposing how I see my mindset, how I see the game. Other notes not reflected in the aforementioned section. So any creative things pros come up with, like ghosting E and Heck, and doing like these funny things, I'm all for it. Let them cook. So they can get a play and maybe a second play off and the checkpoint. There you go. Well, that's just a play that you guys didn't prepare for. You're punished by losing a Drake. I think that's compelling early game that you can lose your Drake. Value proposition is dynamic calculation that pro players can make on the fly. This system seems to be favoring intelligent teams. So maybe like there's too much of a playbook ask of this kind of way. But at least it's a different playbook. And I think that you need to be intelligent, but in the end, like there is a micro. You need to be able to pull it off. Like you need to have the micro. But it is worried. Like maybe this is too intelligence skewed, because like if we make situations where funneling, you have to know those situations. We need to know the answers to lane swapping. You need to what other mechanics are in the game. These Easter eggs. But they're still going to be like asked to dynamically figure out what to do. So I think it's like a situation with chess where you can still have a skill of memorizing openings being useful. This is what I'm talking to the 960 chess or freestyle chess. You can still have that ability useful, but this is now the main concern, is that you have to dynamically pull it off, and that's the difference. So I'm pretty sure that I'm fine. Like I'm really liking this solution so far. After 2 weeks, you need to do a follow-up. Is the solution work correctly or compelling? But let's get back to the viability analysis, which is just a bunch of different questions. So disclaimer, I'm operating blind here, and like I said, don't know what Riot systems are, and this is what I came up with with my Emerald brain. So is the game better because this mechanic is in the game? And by this mechanic, I'm talking about Dragon's Reckoning as a means to counter LaneSwapGambit. I'm skewed, and I think yes. Like I took the time to prepare this document, so I think so. But I need to know your thoughts. As a viewer, would I be disappointed that the outcome of Worlds be decided by the solution proposed to address the source analyses? So source analyses would be part 1, which defines the source of the problem. So would I be disappointed as a viewer that this decided Worlds? Dragon's Reckoning decided Worlds. They do a double LaneSwapGambit at the finals? No, they wouldn't. Or if they did, we missed our job. Like we unless this is something epically cooked that they were waiting. They're like, well, okay, we have this niche line that I think we have a line on, and you can do this. And what are they doing? Like this would be compelling if they pull it off. The 1 out of 100. So even the double gambit, if they want to do it, I'd be okay with it. Giving Dragon, they have a different take. No, I'm not mad if pros forgot about it. But that's saying pros would be salty because they lost because they didn't think of it. But it's like, yeah, if a pro forgot to take a flash, changes runes, like, yeah, would I be salty? Absolutely, but like, that's on you. So I'm okay with Dragon's Reckoning having an impact in the game. Does the solution address the requirements set forth by the source analysis? So if we look back, the requirements, this is when I started. So giving the reward, how reliably can we incentivize team? Reward is gifted to the team that opts for standard play. And so this is more like, okay, does the LaneSwapGambit counterplay uncompelling? Is it now compelling to have a counterplay? So it removes the guessing game. Yes, it does that. Coordinated lane swap is the optimal strategy in League of Legends. Well, that's what we want to change. If it's not, we need to buff the reward, and if not, but that's how we go about it. The best counter to LaneSwapGambit is for you yourself to LaneSwap count, thereby pro-jailing champs. No, now we're trying to get it to a point that if you do LaneSwap or do the double LaneSwapGambit, you're not going to be winning the game. You're at a disadvantage. This is more like the hockey analogy that I had done, where this is a Hail Mary-esque play. For all you viewers, go see part 1 to figure out what I'm getting at with mixing these sports. But you're giving an opportunity for a team that either got out draft or a team that is just worse and doesn't want to face Gumayushi and Keria as a duo, right? But at least Guma's gifted a Drake and let him cook with an extra Drake. We'll see how that goes for you, you know? So okay. So far I'm with this. Does the solution thematically work? Player fantasy upheld. So here I'm thinking about, just to recall that in the history of League of Legends, Drake was always bot side, and that's the reason the 1-1-1-2 formation was actually adopted. So I think it really fits that this is a dragon skewed solution for a bot side problem. Does the solution players stifle creativity by limiting right approved healthy strategies? Oh, and then follow up is, does the solution open the opportunity of any of Riot's disapproved unhealthy strategies? So here we go, and we look at like all these strats, and I don't know where they're gonna fall, right? I don't want to anger the community. This would be an evaluation done in house to see like what we want to support, what we want to see gone from the game. So I'm talking about like double book, double smite, top lane Taric, Soraka, Janna, funnel carry jungle, funnel carry ADC. Top lane, mid lane, ADC, bot lane. Oh yeah, that was that's an ADC jungle that FBI was doing. So it's top lane goes top, mid lane, ADC and support, bot lane it's jungle and mid laner, and you funnel the camps into your ADC. So that was the strat. Do we want to support that? Top lane Bard, roaming support, double Atlas. Top lane Inting Scion with smite or not smite. Ivern Rengar duo bot. Rift Herald claim while plates are still up. Like this is an example of something I think that would just be, no, we don't want that to be in the game. Double smite setups for like Scion jungle tool clear might not be healthy. It reduces the value of Nunu and Cho. Like that might be unhealthy. But anyway, whenever you say that, like you are narrowing the bell curve. Right, where you're saying that player creativity, we're saying no, you need to fit within these parameters. And what I'm saying is no, let's open it up to creativity. Let's make it so that most games are always standard, the 90%. But at least there's something else that can happen. Keep it fresh. In the event that the team is outclassed 9-1, will this solution appear more often? I think that's kind of the point of the mechanic that I'm drafting. Like I spoke to that a little bit earlier with Keria and Gumayushi. It was like, give them a Drake and let them cook. So yeah, that's fine. Does the mechanic teach incentivize the player to the intended way to play the game? So here are examples of this, just to support my point, is turret plates for me made a huge difference. Thank you, Riot. You taught me from a goal perspective how much I could stay in lane before having to leave. You take one plate, you leave. Otherwise, you're going to get jungle gang, typically. Right? That's enough time for the jungler to react and come and kill you. Dragon Soul was another way to just value Drakes, to teach that to the player base, to go for objectives. Well done. So does my mechanic, well, I did that example in low with the Tribush and not giving it. There was some teachable moments. The ideal way is to play the 1-1-1-2, and I think this incentivizes that. So I think I'm okay. I have a pass. It's not necessarily teaching it, but so far I haven't been like in a moment where the correct outplay is to do the wrong play. I haven't been able to identify that as a situation. So I think it passes because of that. Can the system be creatively grieved? Well, I went over those cases like 2 top as a duo. You can't grieve it. Even if you're 2, you can't grieve it. Like your team has access to just force 2 checkpoints bot, and then that's it. Does there exist an active defense counterplay to this solution? Well, yes. You literally have a playbook, and then you can figure out, and then you get choices. You can opt in. If the enemy teams opt in, you have some information about how they're going to do about it. It's fairly limited, and you have a choice that you can decide. It's not always that you have to stay mid. Like with the example I did in Annex 1, like you can actually stay mid if that's the correct play. You can gank bot, or you can gank top, depending on what you want to do, what makes sense for the game. So yes, there is some counterplay. There are some decisions to make. Do levers exist to balance this functionality in the long term? If so, name them. I think I don't need to go through again, but like adding the Drake, the second charge, choosing Drakes, having it like an aura of XP given out to your team so you can level up. Like you can keep adding these levers saying, no, this is what's happening. But I feel like it feels just much better as a team that's being, I don't want to face this, and in return I'm getting all these buffs and I'm happy with that. Like I much prefer this than to be like, what? But then we try for the play and it's just a ruin. No, let them have that play top. We're getting an advantage, and that's the choice that we're opting into. Has the dev team identified any possible exploits which could not be solved for demanding the aforementioned levers? Here, like, I tried to break it and I haven't been able to. So hopefully you guys come up with ideas I can, and let's see if we can make it work. So will this be a balance nightmare? I don't think so. I think it's in a narrow-ish, like, because it's so deterministic that this one new feature is meant to deal with just this case. It's so limited that like you literally just change that every time you want to address that problem. So I feel like it's fairly easy. Now, in the long term, I'm not saying we're getting it right. Like maybe my 2 minutes isn't working. Maybe there's a bunch of things that could be slightly off, but you just tweak it like everything does. Like how many times have feats changed, right? It used to be 1 for first blood, and then I became the 3. I was thinking that should also change to like 5 just for feats. It could change to like 5, so 1 of every type, similar to like how the runes work. And then the other thing too is just add a feat which is 100 CS. I feel like that's compelling. There's a player fantasy where we just want to stay in lane and scale, and we don't want to do anything in group. So let them have a way out. So if you don't go to grubs, maybe you do it. And if 100's too quick or it doesn't work, you just change the number to 150. Like you can, I think it was an interesting one to have regardless. How much time will the players need to adjust? So I think that this is a start of year actually. It can't be a start of season. I wouldn't start season 3 with this unless the design team were to adopt work on this right away. And I don't think that it's any means viable. So I think this is next season. So we finish this season and this year with the current path that we've set out. And we say that, you know what, in preseason next year, we're doing it so that it's no longer about punishing creativity. It's about embracing it. And that's a mentality shift that should be reserved for a year when like the worlds get resolved. Because like there are pro play, like if we signed a contract with a pro player and he works in a specific way, like we don't want to do that. I really think that it's this kind of solution you do at the start of the year. How complex is the implementation of system from 1 to 10? Well, here I actually can't speak to it. Like I don't know what the art department's going to come back and say, no, this can't be done. Software development side of it, like there are some, I don't know, testing to do this. There's going to be a lot. So like, I don't know. And then sustainability long terms. Like, do we need a like the art item is the example I give here. So by creating copies of items, whenever you change IE, you also need to change the IE upgrade, because otherwise you could have a situation where IE is stronger than the Orn buffed one. So it created some complexity. So that's why Orn items are limited, because they would always have to go, and there's that much more items in the game. Can this be monetized to offset the development cost of server upgrades? I don't know. Like maybe that's probably another department that's going to say, hey, is this viable? So that pretty much just goes across like what my solution is. Like I'm trying to look at it. I'm trying to break this. And so far I'm thinking, no, this is fun. I have my reward bot. I'm getting Drake. And if we need more, give me more. I am not lane swapping. I'm just playing a standard game. If you want to grief me, as a team in solo queue, you can still defend the grief. It's not about the support. You punish the griefer. No, let him be, but you guys can still defend it. We do a 2-week follow-up, like I was saying. Did the solution correctly increase compelling gameplay? Did the abusive targeted gameplay hit target? What can we do to make it go up or down? Did the solution have the intended outcome? Whatever. You do your analysis, and we adapt. We adjust whatever's going to happen. So this has been a heavy video, and I'd like to finish it off with Freak's concerns. So here's a clip of what I'm talking about.
The reason we actually didn't even tie to support item for pro play for lane swap in the first place is because I knew from pro play past that a pro team would be willing to be like, well, I'll just start with a longsword or boots, and I get to dodge lane swap detection. Look, I'm not lane swapping, I'm a top laner. I'm Senna with boots of speed. And the rest of our efforts, and this hasn't been spun up yet, but it will be how we're going to be looking at it longer term, is more about strategic depth in pro play. Now, to be clear, this is harder to solve. It is not as simple as nerf Kalista by 2% win rate. Congratulations, we got champion diversity. But it is something that we are very keen to investigate and try to find the time for. I don't know when, but we will look to try to do that at some point. I suspect, I don't know what I can predict or promise for you people, but the lens through which we are looking at pro play is going to be around strategic diversity as best we can, and so we'll see how that goes. But that's just kind of want to illustrate that for everybody. Okay, moving on.
If we ever see the behavior of LaneSwapGambit being countered with a lane swap yourself, it's a clear fact that the reward isn't compelling enough to change player behavior. So we need to increase the buff and deny the reward to teams who agree to do the lane swap on both sides of the map. It is my opinion that League is due for a resurgence. Let this 90s kid contribute to the game to deliver product that we can be proud to share with our children. Those firsts, those lessons, those cheese strats, whatever the fantasy was that made you love League. Let's herald them into the next decade as summoners devoted to the Rift. Never lose sight of what is possible. I'm 10 years in, and I've never lost sight of my fantasy. That there's nothing much sweeter than being outclassed in an ARAM by my wife, who is bronze, while on my main OTPMF. Or to witness the banger 204 kill, 437 assist, 37-minute battle royale ARAMs with friends and family. That's my fantasy. Have I convinced you that I can be trusted to herald yours? Riot, if you're watching, I'm still job hunting.